you'll never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. We must be cautious. Only watch your step. This place can be a little rough.
I don't like the look of this.
Before Star Wars, sci-fi was very shiny. Well, most sci-fi was. Things looked very clean and very new. Alien costumes had to look otherworldly, which often meant they looked very flamboyant, or they weren't that far removed from the current fashion of the time.
Hello, pretty.
Now, this wasn't such a big deal if the sci-fi was connected to humans in some future Earth, but as we know, Star Wars was set a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And as the original trailer said,
an adventure unlike anything on your planet.
George was determined to not only make Star Wars look as far removed from Earth as possible, but he also wanted it looking lived in and relatable. The clean and shiny would come later, when we made it to a city of wealth.
You look absolutely beautiful. You truly belong here with us among the clouds.
He wanted everything to look fit for purpose, including the costumes. When we visited Tatooine, Hoth or Endor, they all had different environments, so it would have looked ridiculous if Luke had kept his farm boy costume on for all 3 films. His outfits were part of his story. It helped represent his growth. Unlike Rey, who... oh dear, Rey's costume hardly changed, no matter where she was. Yes, clothing looking right for the environment is very important.
Your tauntaun will freeze before you reach the first marker. Then I'll see you in hell.
Which brings us to this insanity. A quick word from today's sponsor, Likewise TV. Life was fine if not a little predictable when you only had the choice of one. But what if you wanted to spice it up a bit, have a bit more variety, and the option to share it around? Yes, we have moved on from just Netflix to a never-ending choice of streaming services, which makes finding what you wanted to watch before the food goes cold impossible. But Likewise TV can solve that problem and make sure the night gets moving while everything is still hot. Likewise TV is a personalised streaming hub that makes it simple to find what you want to watch, and it doesn't matter which streaming service it's on. So no more bouncing back and forth between services trying to remember where that movie you keep meaning to watch is streaming. Everything is now in one place on Likewise TV. Likewise lets you categorise your own watch lists, and not only will every movie or series be clearly labelled where it can be streamed, you can also check out all of its details, including the IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes scores. Plus you can share what you're watching with your friends, and you can even follow your favourite YouTuber. And best of all, Likewise TV is totally free. Just use that link below. Life's too short to waste time on things you're not interested in. Likewise TV. The night's more fun when you don't have to deal with the boring stuff. We know Tatooine is a very dry, dust-filled, barren outpost.
I got such a bad case of dust contamination I can barely move.
The planet is so harsh with its dual suns and lack of water that the Sand People took to wearing special outfits to protect them and recycle any moisture they lost. Hey June, George Lucas says hi.
It is a high-efficiency filtration system. Even this early in the morning, you wouldn't survive 2 hours without one of these.
So the idea of a gang of freshly cleaned, shiny scooter-riding dandies led by a pasty white post-punk wannabe in a cut-off leather jacket is fucking ridiculous. She must bathe in Factor 50 plus sunscreen so her lily-white skin doesn't fry off her limbs.
Ah! You fucking cunt!
Sunblock 5000. Just apply a pint to your body and you're good for hours.
And if you've ever been on a dirt road, let alone a desert town, staying clean is not an option. But the worst part about this absurd costume choice is that it goes against what made Star Wars timeless. It is way too reminiscent of what we see every day on Earth, and it was done for absolutely no reason except lack of creativity.
An adventure unlike anything on your planet.
Look, old man.
Now George very clearly didn't want Star Wars to have any connection to Earth. One of his original directions for the designers of the costumes was to avoid any fasteners. He didn't want to see buttons or zippers, as they were all too connected to Earth and our style. He would also not want to see any eyeglasses for the exact same reason. Obviously, the costume department had to deal with the reality of making the costumes on Earth, which obviously meant they needed to use buttons and zippers. They also had to make a shitload of costumes and keep within budget. But as best they could, the earthly zipper should be hidden. And history has shown us that George was right. Star Wars is very timeless. Just check out some of the other fantasy sci-fi from that era.
You're beautiful. Let's have sex.
No.
Then why are you wasting my time?
Now, this is the difference between a visionary and a hack. Understanding escapism and creating a timeless other world is what made Star Wars stand the test of time. Something a lot of the modern fans don't quite understand. And of course, there are morons that will defend any rubbish with the Star Wars name on it. They think the mod gang look is just as amazing as anything George did. And for some reason, their proof of this is that Luke's flight suit had a zip. George's design rules that governed hundreds if not thousands of costumes accounts for nothing, because when Luke stops being the backwater farm boy and dons a flight suit as part of his journey, there is a zipper. The practicality of making all those costumes finally caught up with the original costume designer John Mollo. When a zipper finally appeared in The Empire Strikes Back, these fans that seem to love the brand of Star Wars more than the story or the film achievements don't even attempt to understand how a creative mind brings an idea to life. Paul Bateman, a professional concept designer, was explaining, more politely than I would have, how he thought the zippers were out of place. He explained how it was important because the original ideas had mattered to Mollo and Ralph, that being John Mollo, the original costume designer, and Ralph McQuarrie, who famously did the original concept art that completely shaped Star Wars. Now, Paul Bateman was friends with Ralph McQuarrie and is working on finishing some of Ralph's unfinished pieces. So what was the genius response to what I thought was a very interesting take by a professional concept designer on the use of the zippers? Was his mind open up to the obvious idea that creative guidelines work?
Not really. Lucas says a lot of stuff and doesn't hold to it. Also, he is allowed in other things.
Wow. Would rather go with George Lucas, Ralph McQuarrie and John Mollo being wrong than admit he may be just out of his depth in this conversation. But what would I know? Maybe John should hand back his Oscar that he received for the original Star Wars costume design. His family should also give back the £125,000 John Mollo's original design book just got at auction. This is the same book that has the notes regarding zippers and buttons. Apparently the mods' costumes are just as good and make perfect sense because Luke's flight suit had a zipper. Man, that Mona Lisa is shit.
What are you talking about? The Mona Lisa's always had problems. Look, the horizon doesn't even line up in the Leonardo da Vinci version. And because I pointed that out, it makes this one just as good. You just hate this one because it's new. I'm just enjoying we're getting more Mona Lisa.
Now I understand enjoying trash, but defending something as obviously out of place as the mods makes you think some of these fans should start wearing a helmet on a regular basis. And as for the laziness of the fucking scooters, while we are being treated to this laughably slow, badly edited speeder chase that has some truly horrible CGI. Yes, if your work's horrible, just add way too much blur. We get to check out this creative, original idea that they've come up with for the mod scooters.
Hey there!
Look at the cornering on these bad boys. Just nice and upright. The Thunderbirds would be proud. Doesn't it remind you of Return of the Jedi? Piss weak. Now, taking the idea of a cheeky hot rodder who is proud of his car and turning him into a cheeky pilot who is proud of his ship is cool and creative. Having the ship be a beaten up old model.
What a piece of junk!
Your car's uglier than I am!
That the driver has souped up with some special modifications is also very in line with the hot rodder way of life.
She may not look like much, but she's got it where it counts, kid. I've made a lot of special modifications myself.
That's how inspiration creates a fun character. It's taking the soul of something you are familiar with and injecting it into the universe you have created. Oh, look, it's Chewie. No, not really. George's dog may have inspired Chewie, but his real name was actually Indiana.
We named the dog Indiana.
You are named after the dog?
Lucas was an old hot rodder who was now making a space adventure. All these dickheads did was take some wheels off some scooters and get some clothes from Alibaba. They didn't even change the fucking name. What vehicles are they stealing all those mirrors off? This is not being influenced by some pop culture moment. This isn't giving you a nod to the past. This is just some weird bastardized copy and paste. Oh, here come the lowriders to take our money. Hang on, the rednecks are going to stop them. Or you better watch out for the cashed up yuppies. Oh, fuck off, here come the hipsters. Everyone kill the fucking hipsters. Sadly, not an exaggeration. Hey Hollywood, where's my big check for my creative originality? To be fair, they ripped off 2 subcultures, but I'm pretty sure they wouldn't know that. It's more mods combined with rockers, with a slap of diarrhea thrown in, and the mods and rockers didn't really get along. Now, some Boba Fett fans have said that the scooters are very much like what George did in the prequels. Apparently, they could have been parked outside Dex's diner. Now, going to the prequels as some type of defense for the new Star Wars is always going to be a backward step in your argument. But to use a scene that even fans of the prequels laugh at is more evidence to how stupid these scooters are. Plus, Coruscant is a planet that's completely covered with a modern city. The type of place that would have plenty of wealthy people that do things like go to the opera, that could possibly have spoiled valley-type kids that ride shiny dumbass scooters. But they're not living in Coruscant's Valley District. They're in a scummy desert at the arse end of the universe with no water, sunscreen or AliExpress. I mean, what's next? Johnny turning up to their desert party and breaking their boombox? Now that I think about it, it's pretty stupid that Padme changed into a peasant's outfit to fit in on Tatooine. Disney have now shown us that she could have rocked up in this gear and no one would have blinked. There just would have been a lot of peasant wanking. Oh look, more peasant gear. Ah yes, rough spun tunic for Tatooine's harsh conditions, leg wraps and wrist bindings to keep out sand and dust. It's as if they were trying to tell a story within a believable setting. What fucking morons.
I may have gone too far in a few places.
I like that obviously the costume department didn't know what the costumes were going to be used for, so they printed a little Boba Fett head on the vest. But, you know, who gives a shit? Also, we have to make a special mention as to how none of the gang's body modifications give them any advantage over a normal person. The show creators couldn't come up with one idea or skill that would justify the mods deforming their bodies. They're so piss weak. They could have achieved more with a blaster.
This gang. They are half man, half machine. They modify their bodies with droid parts to make themselves even more deadly.
And this guy's new modified skill is never getting a good night's sleep ever again, or being able to pull clothing over his head, or ever wear any type of helmet. Also, he doesn't have to do this. Great work, Disney. Wait, hang on.
I need a midichlorian count.
The reading is off the chart.
He has all those body modifications, but he has to use a public phone booth. Fucking hell, this show's beyond dumb. What's his next modification? Getting a Nokia 5110 implanted into his throat?
The extended battery. It stands by for up to 450 hours.
Good work. Keep an eye on them. Sorry.
Oh, great, yes, the very old keep an eye on them joke.
Sorry. It's an expression.
That only works if you've lost an eye, not if you've added a bionic eye. It's actually what you'd say to him all the time.
Steve Austin will be that man. Better than he was before.
Don't have to be sorry, mate. I paid a lot for this. Proud of my eye.
You all should be working.
There is no work, mighty daimyo.
I paid a lot for this. I paid a lot for this.
I'm now even more convinced that an improv class is writing this shit show.
I failed!
The mods are another real low point for Star Wars, but this isn't the first time a Disney streaming show has started eroding Lucas's original otherworldly costume ideas. The Mandalorian has already had a dude wearing glasses for no reason besides the modern laziness of it just being something we haven't seen before. George had said no glasses in Star Wars to help make it timeless, and it had worked. He also told Carrie there was no underwear in space, which also worked.
I mean, I bet she even got to wear a bra, even though you told me I couldn't. Because there was no underwear in space.
But a bigger Star Wars costume-breaking sin was in this very show. The idea behind the Sand People's appearance is that their whole outfit helps them survive in this incredibly harsh desert. Thanks again, June. The robes, the masks, the headgear, all of it's important. But Boba lives with them for 5 years in a white onesie, and he doesn't even have a hat. In June, the desert is a scary, extremely dangerous place where certain death awaits anyone that is not prepared.
The sun's getting too high. We need to seal the doors.
Now, it wasn't on Tatooine, but even Finn looked to be paying the price for just a few hours exposed to the elements with no water. But Boba, he spent 5 years in the direct sun without a problem. I mean, he gets a little puffed if he's been walking out there all day with no water, but nothing serious. Boba actually makes the Sand People look quite stupid in their whole moisture-saving getup. I'd love to introduce Boba into the Dune universe. Or better still, bring in the pasty mod. What the fuck? The Dune fans would be so pissed off. They'd be rightfully outraged. Unlike the new Star Wars fans, they don't have any expectations when it comes to Star Wars respecting its own universal story.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Don't sweat it, man. Remember, Disney paid you millions. Now, it's obviously fun to laugh at this ridiculous show, as Star Wars has turned into a piñata, a lifeless, tacky object that is churned out in a factory to entertain blind consumers. It's also fun to whack for laughs. But even still, Lucasfilm can find a way to surprise me. Ralph McQuarrie is regarded as one of the greatest conceptual designers and illustrators that has ever worked in the film industry. He completely shaped not only the look of Star Wars, but also some people's whole childhoods. He was a hugely influential talent. Lucasfilm decided to celebrate this by smashing a piece of his artwork with one of the worst designed characters Star Wars has ever seen. Not only did Lucasfilm love to, for some bizarre reason, break the fourth wall, they seem to really enjoy disrespecting everything and everyone from the original trilogy.
No one respects you.
Good old Rian Johnson even had Tim Rose, the man inside Akbar, in tears after showing him little respect on the set of The Last Jedi. After filming Akbar's last scene where he goes out the window like an extra in the background to float off and die off screen, he was only the guy that led the assault on the second Death Star and helped save the universe. Poor Akbar had worked alongside Leia for 30 years, and when she came to, she never asked about him ever again. But she did often wonder, how come the ship doesn't smell like a brothel anymore? Well, after filming that fitting send-off for Akbar, Tim was invited back to set where he thought they were going to thank him for 30 years service. Well, surprise, that's not the Disney Lucasfilm way. Instead, he had to film a joke to stroke Ryan's ego. Respect, it's a lost art form. Then Ryan and the crew just ignored him. Thanks, Tim, for 30 years.
I was actually in tears in the suit. Akbar's final moment before he went into the box was just a big joke about it's a wrap.
It's a wrap!
Now that was bad. But with this, some real planning went into destroying a piece of Ralph McQuarrie's work in the Book of Boba Fett. Lucasfilm really wanted to sink the boot into not only the old fans, but also the old creators. Now, I don't know if this was done out of complete disrespect or absolute stupidity, but I can't think of any artist that would enjoy seeing their work destroyed on TV, let alone on a show that is fully riding on the back of their incredible work. But you see, I don't think intelligent artistic people are behind this show. The people making this show aren't people working at the top of their field. They aren't even close to being able to produce the type of work that Ralph McQuarrie and John Mollo did. Their lack of talent isn't their fault, but choosing to disrespect the people they are leeching off and making a living off is totally their fault. And simply, it's fucking pathetic.
You go too far!
Wow, how the mighty has fallen.
You know anything about Spanish fly?
It's sad to think that Star Wars used to be like a wonderful lighter version of Dune, but after this disastrous, goofy series, those days are long gone. Now Star Wars has a story depth of happy days, including the water ski episode.
You were wonderful! You were fantastic! You were stupendous! Oh, it's gonna be you and me, babe, right to the top!